Forget the box scores for just a second. Remember that seventh inning? Bases loaded, Padres at the plate, and 0 runs to show for it? That wasn't just a blown opportunity. It was a huge red flag, a statistical tremor that could signal the next big shift in this I-5 rivalry. We're not just looking at wins and losses here. We're cracking open the data, uncovering the numbers that really define these games, and more importantly, tell us where the smart money should be heading. This isn't about gut feelings. It's about finding that betting gold hidden in plain sight, those key trends that separate wishful thinking from profitable wagers. Context setting. The Los Angeles Dodgers just gave the San Diego Padres a harsh reminder of why they're a perennial powerhouse, taking 2 out of 3 in their latest series. It was a classic I-5 showdown, full of tension, star power, and those moments that can define a whole season. But what did this series really tell us about where these two NL West giants are heading as they gear up for their next clash? Player performances are shaking things up, and if you know where to look, the betting landscape is full of chances. We're skipping the basic recap and getting into what the stats below the surface are saying. It's not just about who won, but how they won, why the Padres stumbled in those big moments, and what all this means for your betting slip next time these Titans go at it. We're trying to understand the patterns of their recent games to get a better read on the future. Hidden Stat Deep Dive, number 1. Anatomy of a Collapse, San Diego's 7th inning nightmare and wrist woes. Let's go back to that pivotal June 11th game. Dodgers were up, but the Padres were threatening. Bases loaded, 7th inning. The kind of moment fans live for, the kind that sorts contenders from pretenders. And then, crickets. Luis Ariz, a hitting machine, retired. Manny Machado, their offensive cornerstone, retired. Threat over, inning wasted. For the Padres, a game-changing rally just vanished. Now, this wasn't just bad luck. It's a flashing warning light, a hidden stat, if you will, that points to a major issue. How the Padres perform in high-stakes situations with runners in scoring position. Risk. No one's denying the raw talent on that Padres roster, but their inability to cash in when it really counts against top teams like the Dodgers is becoming a worrying trend. Picture it. Late innings, rivalry game, the pressure is immense. The Dodgers bullpen, even when they've been worked hard, has a knack for making the big pitches. Alex Vesia, for example, came in and shut things down with 3 strikeouts in the 9th of that very game. This isn't just about one inning, it's a pattern. We need to examine their overall LOB percent, left on base percentage, with runners in scoring position, especially in innings 7 through 9 against good pitching. Do their numbers drop off? Are they chasing bad pitches? Are they hitting the ball hard right at fielders? Or is it something more fundamental about their approach under pressure? The research shows that the Padres did flash some offensive firepower, even blowing out the Dodgers 11-1 in one game of the series. So we know the bats can catch fire. But being consistent in clutch spots is what separates the good teams from the champions. Loading the bases and not getting a single run home? That points to a possible mental or tactical block. For bettors, this is huge. A team that keeps leaving runners stranded, particularly late in close games, is a risky bet, even if their overall offensive stats look decent. That failure to launch in the 7th wasn't just a minor detail, it was a data point. It suggests that when the heat is on, the Padres' offense can stall. This doesn't mean they can't score, but it makes them unreliable in those make-or-break moments. A factor savvy bettors absolutely have to consider. If this pattern continues, even if the Padres create chances, actually turning them into runs against a disciplined, well-coached team like the Dodgers is a tough ask. This kind of offensive fragility in big moments is often missed by casual fans who just glance at batting averages or runs per game. It's hidden because you have to look deeper than the surface, at how they perform when everything's on the line. Broader statistical analysis, Dodgers, an offensive juggernaut, especially at home. All right, let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture, starting with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Lately, their offense has been absolutely formidable. Get this, the Dodgers have scored at least 5 runs in each of their last 3 games, averaging a scorching 7.3 runs per game in that stretch. That's not a fluke. It's what happens when you have a lineup this deep, powerful, and relentless. From the leadoff hitter to the bottom of the order, they're a threat. We saw Teoscar Hernandez break a tie with a monster 3-run homer in that June 11th game, a perfect example of their game-changing pop. Michael Conforto tacked on another homer in the same game for some important insurance. Then there's Andy Pages, who looks like he's really finding his groove. He smacked his second homer in as many at-bats and drove in 3 runs in the June 17th win. And it wasn't just him. Will Smith hit a go-ahead 2-run homer, and Tommy Edman added a 2-run double, all part of a 5-run inning. This ability to string together big hits and put up a bunch of runs in one inning is classic Dodgers. They don't just chip away, they can bury you with an avalanche of runs. How they play at Dodger Stadium is another key factor. The stats show the Dodgers have gone over the run total in 17 of their last 23 home games. That's a pretty strong trend, telling us that high-scoring games are the norm when they're playing in their own park. Could be hitter-friendly conditions, being comfortable in their routines, or maybe the home crowd just juices them up. Whatever it is, it's a big signal for anyone looking at over-under bets. When the Dodgers are home, expect some offensive fireworks. Plus, the Dodgers have a solid record when they're the favorites, winning 63.3% of those games this season. Not exactly shocking given their talent, but it does underline their reliability, especially in front of their own fans. Even when their pitching rotation has been hit by injuries, forcing them to use swingmen like Matt Sauer or even Shohei Ohtani as an opener, the offense has usually been strong enough to pick up the slack. That kind of resilience says a lot about their depth and how well they adapt. And don't forget defense. They make game-changing plays there too. Andy Pages isn't just hitting. He made an incredible defensive play, gunning down Gavin Sheets at home with a 99 miles per hour rocket, stopping what could have been a big inning for the Padres. Plays like that don't always jump out in the offensive stats, but they have a massive impact on momentum and the final score. These hidden defensive gems are just as valuable as a timely hit. The Dodgers aren't just an offensive powerhouse, they're a well-rounded team that can beat you in a lot of different ways. Their knack for scoring consistently, especially at home, combined with clutch defense, makes them a tough out and a team that usually lives up to being the favorite. Broader statistical analysis. Padres, potential muzzled by pitching. Questions and inconsistency. Now let's flip over to the San Diego Padres. We're talking about a team with a ton of talent, but one that's really struggled for consistency, especially when it comes to turning that talent into wins against top-shelf opponents like the Dodgers. Sure, they had that impressive 11-1 win in the recent series, showing what they can do offensively, but the fact they couldn't keep that going in the other 2 losses says a lot. Offensively, the Padres lean on guys like Luis Arraez and Manny Machado. Machado, for example, leads the team in hits and RBIs this season, so he's always a dangerous bat in the middle of the lineup. Arraez, with his well-known hitting skills, is a great guy to set the table. But, as that 7th inning meltdown on June 11th showed, even these stars can be shut down in big moments, especially against a tough bullpen under pressure. The Padres' offense, while it can be explosive, seems to blow hot and cold. Their average runs per game in their last 10 is 4.5. Respectable, sure, but way below what the Dodgers have been putting up recently. On the surface, that ERA looks okay, right? But when you dig into his underlying metrics, things get a bit more concerning. His xERA, expected ERA, is much higher at 5.91, and his FIP, fielding independent pitching, is 5.35. These advanced stats suggest Vasquez has been getting a bit lucky, and his performance might be headed for a downturn, particularly against a lineup as potent as the Dodgers. An xERA that's way higher than the actual ERA often means a pitcher has been helped by good defense or some fortunate bounces on balls in play, and you'd typically expect more runs given the quality of contact and his strikeout/walk numbers. Similarly, a high FIP points to less effective underlying performance based on things a pitcher can control: homers, walks, strikeouts. This weak spot in their rotation is something bettors really need to think about. Against a Dodgers team that pounces on any sign of weakness, a pitcher with shaky underlying numbers is a major red flag. The Padres have actually done pretty well against the spread, ATS, lately, going 7-3 in their last 10 games. And they've won 3 of their last 9 as underdogs. This tells us they can beat expectations and keep games tight, or even snag an upset. However, that recurring issue of their bullpen's performance under duress and their offense struggling to convert in high-leverage spots, like that 7th inning disaster, is what often sinks them against elite teams. Their bullpen ERA might look decent on paper, 3.51 in their last 10, with a good K9 rate of 9.7. But when they give up runs and how they perform in specific high-stakes innings can tell a very different story, one that isn't always clear from the overall ERA. The Padres really need their starters to go deep and hand a lead to a bullpen that can then be used in more defined, lower-pressure roles, instead of constantly being thrown into the fire against relentless offenses like the Dodgers. Hidden Stat Deep Dive number 2. Bullpen battles and the high-leverage tightrope. Let's get into another vital area where those hidden statistical details can give you a betting edge. The bullpen battle, especially in high-leverage situations. We know the Dodgers took 2 of 3 recently, and while their offense was on fire, their bullpen also had to work through some tricky spots and generally came out ahead. The Padres, meanwhile, had that massive offensive failure in the 7th inning, but that also shines a light on how bullpens perform when the game is really on the line. Think about high leverage. This isn't just any old relief appearance. It's those innings, usually late in the game, score is tight, runners on, where the outcome is basically hanging by a thread. A bullpen's overall ERA is a decent starting point, but it doesn't always show you how they do when the screws are really tightened. The Dodgers' bullpen, even though some reports said they were taxed, still managed to lock down wins. That points to a certain toughness and the ability to make pitches when it absolutely, positively matters. We saw Alex Vesia come in and just slam the door with 3 strikeouts in the 9th inning of that 5-2 win. That's a high-leverage win right there. Now, let's compare that to the Padres. Their overall bullpen ERA in the last 10 games is a respectable 3.51, but the real question is, how do they stack up in these specific high-leverage moments against elite lineups? The Padres' offense, failing to score in that key 7th inning, put their own bullpen in a spot where they had to be perfect, which is a massive ask against the Dodgers. But even beyond that one game, are there patterns in how Padres relievers handle inherited runners? What are their strikeout versus walk rates when they come into a game with the tying or go-ahead run, on base or at the plate? These are the hidden stats that often separate the good bullpens from the great ones. A reliever might have a good overall ERA because he cleans up in low-pressure innings, but if he crumbles when the game is on a knife's edge, that's a serious weakness. The Dodgers, historically, have always had bullpen depth that lets them play matchups effectively in the late innings. Even with injuries or key guys getting a rest, they often seem to find someone who can step up. The Padres need their bullpen not just to have decent numbers, but to be completely lights out in these pivotal moments against a team like Los Angeles. The research mentioned the Padres' struggles to convert in high-leverage situations have cost them against top-tier teams. That's likely talking about their offense, but it definitely has a knock-on effect for their bullpen. If the offense isn't giving them any breathing room, the bullpen is constantly walking a tightrope. For betting, especially if you're looking at run lines or live betting, knowing which bullpen is more likely to crack under pressure is incredibly valuable. If the Dodgers have a lead going into the late innings, their bullpen's track record in high-leverage situations might make you feel better about them covering a run line. On the flip side, if the Padres are in a close one, their bullpen's performance in those same spots becomes a make-or-break variable. Are they prone to late-game meltdowns, or can they hold strong? The research pointed to the Dodgers' bullpen holding on for that 8-6 win, which tells you they handled late-game pressure successfully. Looking at stats like inherited runners stranded percentage, ERA in innings 7-9 with a lead of 2 runs or less, or opponent batting average in high-leverage spots can give you so much more insight than just a simple overall bullpen ERA. These are the numbers that really show a bullpen's true grit and can be the difference maker in tight games. Synthesize and betting prediction. Okay, so after digging through recent performances, those game-changing moments, and the stats under the hood, what does it all mean for the next big matchup between the San Diego Padres and the Los Angeles Dodgers? The picture that's forming suggests the Dodgers have a clear edge, especially if the game's at Dodger Stadium. The Dodgers' offense is absolutely on fire right now, averaging that impressive 7.3 runs in their last 3 games and consistently lighting up the scoreboard at home, where the over has hit in 17 of their last 23. Key guys like Teoscar Hernandez, Andy Pages, and Will Smith are coming through with big, game-altering hits. This kind of offensive firepower, combined with their track record of winning as favorites, 63.3% this season, makes them a really tough team to beat. Over on the Padres side, while they definitely have offensive threats like Arise and Machado, and have shown they can win as underdogs, their inconsistency is a major headache. That hidden stat, their struggle in high-leverage situations with runners in scoring position, perfectly shown by that 7th inning collapse, is a huge red flag. On top of that, potential weak spots in their starting pitching, like Randy Vasquez's iffy underlying numbers, 5.91 xERA, 5.35 FIP, could get absolutely torched by the deep Dodgers lineup. The bullpen battle also seems to lean towards the Dodgers, not necessarily because their overall ERA is massively better, but because they've shown they can close out tight games and make big pitches in high-pressure moments, like Alex Vesia did. While the Padres' bullpen has decent numbers, the team's overall struggles in clutch situations just puts more heat on their relievers. Taking all this into account, the betting prediction has to lean towards the Los Angeles Dodgers to win the next matchup. Given their offensive explosion and home field advantage, looking at the Dodgers on the run line, say -1.5 runs, could also offer some good value, especially if their offense keeps scoring like crazy and the Padres' RISP problems continue. The current odds usually have the Dodgers as favorites, with implied win probabilities somewhere between 55 to 68%. The Padres, as underdogs around +180, meaning about a 35.7% chance to win, would need a practically perfect game and a complete turnaround of these worrying trends to pull off an upset. Key player props to keep an eye on, based on recent trends: Shohei Ohtani, over 1.5 hits, or over 2.5 total bases, could be a good look. Even if he's just hitting, he's always a threat. Will Smith, over 0.5 RBI, seems solid after his recent go-ahead homer. Teoscar Hernandez, over 0.5 RBI given his clutch hitting. Andy Pages. With how hot he's been, any prop related to hits or total bases for Pages could be interesting. Some projections might call for a tight game, maybe Dodgers 5, Padres 4, but based on a closer look at the Padres' struggles in key offensive spots and the Dodgers' current offensive steam, a slightly more comfortable win for Los Angeles, something like 6-3 or 7-4, feels more likely if these trends hold up. That makes the run line a pretty appealing option. Those hidden stats, especially San Diego's inability to cash in with runners on base under pressure, and the underlying issues with their pitching, really tip the scales firmly in favor of the Dodgers. Recap and call to action. Alright, let's wrap this up. We've seen the Dodgers' offense is absolutely electric, especially at home, and they just know how to win those decisive moments. We've also broken down that painful Padres' 7th-inning collapse, not as a one-off, but as a sign of a bigger problem in high-pressure situations. That's a key, hidden stat that smart bettors can't afford to ignore. When you put that together with potential pitching issues for San Diego and the Dodgers' bullpen looking solid, the path to victory seems much clearer for Los Angeles in their next meeting. My analysis says the Dodgers have the clear advantage, and the over also looks like a good bet given the offensive trends. But hey, that's just my take based on the numbers. What are your predictions for this I-5 rivalry? Which underlying stats do you think will be the difference maker in the next game? Drop your thoughts and your best bets in the comments below. Let's get a good discussion going. If you found this look into the hidden stats and betting angles helpful, do me a favor and hit that like button. And if you want more data-driven MLB insights and predictions to help you get an edge, make sure you subscribe and ring that notification bell so you don't miss the next breakdown. Thanks for watching.